Welcome to a new episode of Opening Bid. I'm Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. As always, like I say, this is the podcast that will make you a smarter investor. And to that end, be sure to hit us with those stars on Spotify and Apple Music. We appreciate all the great reviews you're giving us. Also, hit us with those thumbs up on YouTube. Our following continues to surge, and we really, really appreciate that support. Speaking of following, I'm psyched to talk with our next guest here, Wedbush analyst Dan Ives. Sometimes I see Dan in China. Sometimes I see Dan in Europe. Dan, you're all over the place. Good to see you, dude.
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
And here in New Jersey. So
yeah, right, New Jersey. Go figure, like the world traveling. Congrats on that new position over at Wedbush. It's well earned, man. You're doing a lot of good work over there.
Oh, and vice versa. Look, it's been, as me and you've talked for many years, right? Just an exciting year for tech. And I think it's just beginning, right? Get the popcorn out.
Yes, get the popcorn out. So I was joking to you before we came on. We could talk about 90 different things together. You cover so many different things, but I want to start, maybe because it's more news of the day, GM, with their Cruise division. This is a division, because you cover General Motors, Tesla, you cover these players. This is a division that has lost, $10 billion over the past decade. Year to date has lost about $2 billion. I would say it's good that General Motors is not trying to make robo-taxis. What say you?
Look, it's good in the near term, right? And I think you'll see a relief in the stock, and it's part of why GM's up, right? Because as more of these things happen, the discipline, that's what the street wants to see. Now, with that said, if you look longer term, it's not good. The reason Mary, Paul, and the team were so focused on Cruise is because autonomous is the future. So ultimately, for them to go down the route of autonomous, there's really only going to be one way. Red phone to Musk, right? In terms of, some sort of, deal with Tesla. So I think, again, good in the near term, but it's a lot harder than it seems to build an autonomous vehicle.
Yeah, no, it sure seems that way. So, but they appear to be taking that technology and fusing it into Super Cruise. Are we looking at a day where, sure, maybe they don't have robo-taxis, Dan, but is the Corvette of the future fully autonomous?
Look, I think the reality is and however they put in the press release, this is probably the beginning of the end for Cruise. In some form. They'll have that technology in some way, but I think this is their putting up the white flag, in terms of this. And then look, from a street perspective, look what's going on with GM. You got tax credits that are going to get pulled once Trump gets in. That's going to force more and more discipline toward hybrid. Maybe peeling back the EV strategy. Cruise, clearly that, we've seen what's happened there. So you're seeing more and more discipline. Again, great for the stock, but the reality is over the longer term, it's really about the growth initiatives, and that remains, I think, still in flux.
Why do we need robo-taxis, Dan? Is it to just play on our phones and let these cars drive by ourselves? Why are these so important?
Look, a lot of it is just about the human driver versus robot. If you think about autonomous technology, much safer, right? I think that at the end of the day, when you see autonomous technology over the coming years, and I believe end of the decade, you could have 10-15% of what we'll call ride shares, whether it's Cybercab or others, will not have a driver. So you won't have someone actually talking on the phone trying to text while they're driving you somewhere. The reality is that autonomous is the future. And I think you're going to see more and more, and we talk about with Tesla, it's a big reason. The autonomous future is going to be significant. I think Tesla continues to lead, and that's why that stock's been up so much since Trump's got in, because it changes the whole game from regulatory.
What's really interesting, Dan, is this has been a really good year for General Motors. The products are on point. I went out and bought one of their new products. It's an amazing experience. I walk into the car, it has my CarPlay. The car is like 500 horsepower. It's an amazing.
I see you with that yellow Corvette.
Yeah, well, let's just take that offline. Look, the reality is I should have some sports cars. I have no kids, and this is what I do. All I do is work, Dan. But look, I think they've done a good job. They've improved their models. But what really has surprised me is how much cost they've taken out of their business, and I would argue that is. That changes the investment thesis on a company like GM, no? Or has.
Well, that's how the stock has had such a massive run, right? Because You could argue over the last few years, GM was run like a federal agency in the Beltway, and not in a good way, right? So the point is like, why discipline? Look, I think Paul is a great CFO, and also I think part of it is like they had to look in the mirror and make some tough decisions. UAW clearly forced some of that, but I think the other thing that's happened with the stock is that you still have an investor in GM, EV to EBITDA,
It
valuation.
looks so cheap. I mean, this is a single-digit PE multiple stock. Go to Yahoo Finance, hit the statistics page. I'm shocked. I'm shocked GM's trading at these levels.
But I'm telling you, if you start to get some sort of disruptive multiple and they show some legit success on EVs, like I'm talking over the next few years, I mean, this is a stock that could easily double conservatively from here as it all plays out. And I think that's where, like, Mary, the board, I think, look, they also got burned too, right? I mean, bet huge in Biden administration, bet huge in the infrastructure, never came. And now they're going to have to make some significant changes, which I think in the near term is probably positive.
You think Tesla is going to make millions of robo taxis, and next year we finally start to see some of these on the road?
I think by 26, you'll see them. I think, look, it goes back to just because the bears, they can see AI in the spreadsheets, right? So when they're sitting deep in those caves in hibernation mode, that's how they've missed out on every transformational tech name the last 20 years. Tesla will be no different. It's not a car company. More and more, it's not going to be valued on traditional EVs. It's about the autonomous future. We think autonomous is worth $1 trillion alone.
Dan, when you're not running around and globetrotting and going to conferences, I mean, I imagine you're still crunching a lot of numbers. I mean, when you look at Tesla, how do you bake in an Elon Musk involved in the government? Is it a higher multiple you assign the company? How do you even think through that?
Well, I think the best first look at full self-driving. Like we're just about FSD. Forget autonomous for a sec. 7 million vehicles. Let's say penetration from an FSD goes from 15% to 50, 60%. What does that do to the margins of the? I mean, you could argue that earnings doubles, over the next few years, right? From a Tesla perspective. And FSD is key because of the software piece, because of the attach rate. And I'll compare it no different than, like, for many years, Apple, no credit for services. That's how you go from 1 to almost 4 trillion, right? I mean, service has been a huge part of the value. Tesla, no different. FSD, it's about it's about the attach rate. Mm-hmm. Then you start thinking about autonomous. I mean, I view like cyber cabs, they're going to OEM some of that technology. Think about what's happening with GM. How they're going to get autonomous? They're eventually going to have to OEM Tesla. The autonomous future is key to the stock. But it goes back to, like, the bears never gave credit for AWS for Amazon. Now look. Never gave credit for services for Apple. Now look. Never gave credit for AWS, for Azure, and for only cloud for Microsoft. Now look in the Dell and Mount Rushmore. Nvidia. They were arguing, why are you spending money on AI in 22? You should spend money on gaming. Now look. It comes down to, look, the bears, they don't see AI in the spreadsheet, even though they're wearing the fleece and those sleeves, right? So the point is, like, even though they sound smart, bulls make money. And I think as we go into 25, it continues to be 10 p.m. in the AI party.
So look,
that goes to 4 a.m.
Let's let's feed into that bear narrative. I look into next year, Dan. I see a Trump administration that might be friendlier towards good old-fashioned gas-guzzling cars and trucks. I look at a Trump administration that may yank the EV tax credit. That can't be good for Tesla.
That's music to the ears of Tesla. And Musk is going to be a big proponent of doing that, because ultimately, as you do that, it evens the playing field. They don't get now the credits, and ultimately, like, in terms of what you see coming out of Detroit Big Three, they don't get those credits. Who's the only one that could be profitable at scale and scope? Musk, Tesla. So I could argue negative for the EV industry, bullish for Tesla. And that's why right now the bromance between Musk and Trump, it is going to have significant implications positive for Tesla, and it continues to be the bet for the ages that Musk made on Trump.
Dan, we're about 10 minutes into this, and you and I haven't even mentioned Ford. Where's I know you're not an auto analyst, but you follow the space closely. Where is Ford in this discussion? You have a GM really coming out blasting next year, a lot of new models. You have Elon effectively running a large part of government, and Tesla and SpaceX. So where does Ford play into the future of autos?
Look, Ford, first of all, the debt, a lot of the cost structure. I mean, Farley definitely has an uphill battle there, right? I mean, I think GM is a much more ideal position because of where they are in Ultium. They control their own battery costs. They build out their own factory. Look, Ford, they're kind of in between. I mean, you also look at like F-150 Lightning. I think, some softer demand there. I think this is going to be a key 12 to 18 months for Ford. I'm not Stellantis, obviously the super negative. We saw what
Stellantis is a
happened there.
disaster. I mean, I used to own a Dodge Challenger, a 2018. I sold it. Thing had 20,000 miles, and the weather stripping started to fall off. I'm like, this is a piece of crap. I got rid of it. I mean, I don't think they make good cars, Dan.
Look, I mean, again, you could argue that if you're a Jeep and bullish there, but
Jeep
the
is
point
I
is,
had a Jeep too. It's bad. Don't even get me going. That was a
no,
piece of crap.
but the point is, look, GM, you put it in a different category than Stellantis and Ford. I think Farley, this is kind of a make or break year. But I think the biggest decision in Ford is the EV strategy. More and more, do they focus on hybrid? And it goes back to you can't cut your way to growth.
It's a good point, Dan. All right, hang with us. We're going to go off for a quick break. We're going to drive beyond, pun intended, this auto discussion. I want to focus a lot on tech. We'll be right back on Opening Bid. All right, having a fun around the horn chat. Wedbush's omnipresent analyst, Dan Ives. The guy's everywhere. So he's finally coming on the Opening Bid podcast. We spent about 12 minutes talking on all things autos, General Motors, Tesla, a little Ford, and how my Jeep basically was a piece of garbage. Now let's do a little around the horn on some of these tech stocks that the Yahoo Finance community loves. I'm going to save Nvidia and the Mag 7 to the end, Dan. I could use about 2 minutes on Palantir. Any given morning, I wake up about 2:40 a.m. First thing I check, 3 a.m. is the interest on our platform and like what people are searching for, stories, tickers, every day. Palantir. You cover Palantir. What is the outlook for this company, and why do you think investors remain so obsessed with this company?
I remember the street's super negative. I mean, if you think about it, most analysts, institutional, they hate it as a teenager, right? Despise it as a senior citizen living in Delray Beach. So the point is, they've hated it from 13 to 75. And they'll hate it to 150. I mean, the point is, because it keeps going there. I just want to make a broader theme. The bears that missed out on every transformational tech day in the last 20 years, waiting for some black swan event on a Sunday morning on Twitter at 3 a.m. What they've missed in Palantir and CARP, it's one of the best technologies ever to come out. And now we talk about Nvidia and GPU, new oil, gold. What they've come out with AIP, it's now going after enterprise. My view on Palantir is they could be the next Oracle, the next Salesforce. I mean, that's where I see this going over the next 5-10 years. Who's the next Oracle? I think Palantir.
If you're calling Palantir the next Oracle or Salesforce, I mean, that's a big call. And my first thought is, despite the run, Palantir's stock might still be undervalued.
But that's our view. I mean, our view on Palantir is, many will be, it's expensive on next year earning. They said the same thing about Salesforce, Apple, Amazon, Meta. The point is, where is it over the next 3, 4, 5 years as they built out AIP on the enterprise? The AI revolution, we're talking about trillions of AI CapEx. How are you going to build the use cases? It starts with Palantir. Now, obviously, in that party, 10 p.m. going to 4 a.m., Salesforce Benioff behind the velvet ropes led him into the party. ServiceNow is in the party. Now that you're starting to see more software players in that party, and if you look, it's really Palantir that's led that. And I just continue to view this as a name, the street, I mean, I probably spend every day talking to a few institutional clients walking through Palantir bull case because it goes back to many hated and almost embarrassed to look at as a teenager, despise as a senior citizen.
Well,
Or
it's hard, right? It's got to be damn hard to be a bear on a momentum name like Palantir, Dan, right? This is a probably one of the ultimate Trump stock picks, no?
but it goes back to the Bears. It keeps look. They don't see AI in the spreadsheet from the 10th floor of the New York City office building. Sounds smart, but for someone like ourselves, 3 million air miles later, 20 years, when you see it around the world, you have a different perspective than that 10th floor New York City office building. So the point is, when you look at Palantir and you go to the boot camps and you see the technology and you understand the vision from Carp, that's why Carp, along with Jensen, godfather of AI, along with what I believe Nadella and others, Mount Rushmore of AI.
Speaking of Mount Rushmore, you like those agents that Mark Benioff is working on? I just talked to him about a week and a half ago after earnings. And he's fired up. He just signed 200 deals on AI agents.
But look, I mean, Brian, you focus on it so much too. Is like, it's just the start. When you think about AI revolution, 10 p.m. the AI party. Now we're going toward the software phase, the use case. Benioff, you think he's going to be in the outside of that party looking in?
Hell
No.
no.
Look at that install base. That's why, but you're going to have some of the overreactions, like in Oracle and others. Software, look at now what's starting to happen. And I believe that's like Snowflake. I look at, names like Salesforce, ServiceNow, Oracle. I think Workday is going to get. I think some of the reactions on like a Mongo and others have been way overreact because I think it comes down to now we're hitting the software piece, and then eventually third, fourth derivative, cybersecurity as well.
Dan, you got to check out. So the CEO of ServiceNow, Bill McDermott, you got to check out some of his Instagram posts. He posts these inspirational Instagram. You got to check it out. Like after you get off here, just check it out.
Look, McDermott,
they're really good.
Again, it goes back to what did you and McDermott all have in common?
Yeah,
it's 516, Long Island. I mean, the point is Long Island.
Him and I actually went to the same college. Him, I believe it was 1982. Dowling College, shout out Dowling College. I actually went bankrupt more than 10 years ago. I still have my certificate that I actually went there. But yeah, look, I mean, it's a Long Island thing. And frankly, three good-looking guys.
Man. 516 good. It's not a shock.
So you mentioned Nvidia, the godfather of AI. As far as I'm concerned, you're the person that actually gave Jensen Huang, the founder and CEO of Nvidia, that name. Now, there was news this week on China. Hit the stock, got the bulls maybe a little concerned. What do you say about this China news? Is this a big deal?
I'm more focused on the cappuccino, making sure that's hot in the morning, right? I mean, the point is, it comes down to, like, look, the Bears, they wake up, they're focused on anything. I mean, we just got back from Asia, 15-to-1 demand to supply. You think this is stopping it? No, but that's why it goes back to, like, in this party, that's 10 p.m., was 9 p.m., goes to 4 a.m. There's many points where a DJ stops music, last on the dance floor, maybe people to hear a siren every once in a while, think cops coming. You're gonna have these nervous moments. But our view is like, this is just the beginning, year 2 of a 10-year build out.
You see that Google chip? I mean, you're an Nvidia bull. I mean, this Google chip, I don't know, computes things, but they're not making money off it. I mean, as an Nvidia bull, you're not worried that Google's gonna come out with this amazing.
But Google's one of our top picks on
the market. You like Google too?
Yeah, but I mean, the point is, Khan, it's just a matter of time until the presser comes out. She's done in the FTC. So any sort of like worries about antitrust, others, deal making is going to increase. And I think they're not getting credit for Waymo, AI, and others. But again, big enough ocean for more than 3 boats.
Now, Nvidia, but I want to go to the Mag 7 and end on that. On Nvidia, is another doubling next year in the cards? Because look, hang with me here. They only just started to ship Blackwell. Theoretically, that is ramping over the next few quarters. But then they're also going to start talking about, Dan, as you know, some new chips in the pipeline that are coming out over the next 2, 3, 4 years. It is hard. It's hard to see what brings that stock down.
They own, they're the only game in town. Now look, AMD, I think AMD is oversold. I mean, we assume there will be others that benefit here, but there's only one selling these chips, and it's Nvidia. And that's why when that red phone rings, wearing the black leather jackets, the Godfather, right? And so the point is this a four? Are we talking 5 trillion in terms of market? But more and more, the foundation starts with Nvidia. That is not changing.
So in the last 3.5 minutes, Dan, we always love to ask our esteemed guests for their hot takes. And I would love your hot take on the Mag 7. But in the context, we just now got, you mentioned Lena Khan. She's going to be out as head of the FTC. In could be Andrew Ferguson. Do you view him as pro big tech? Because it's hard to get a read on where he stands.
Let's take the step back. Khan being out at the FTC in tech, it's like the ball drop in New Year's Eve. It can't get worse, just to be clear. So the point is, like, he'll be a little more business friendly. And it comes down to, it's like, you know, when you grew up and like you'd ask your parents, like, could I? No. No, but I didn't
I always got no. It was never a yes for me, Dan.
No, but I didn't
ask
no. Could I? No. So Khan, look, now that nightmare is done for big tech, it's more deal making at a minimum. That's very significant.
But you have President Trump. He posted on Truth Social, Dan, that he's against the censorship of big tech. I mean, it's hard to get a read on what might happen here. I mean, do you think a Google breakup does happen, or that's now off the table?
Better chance of me playing for Penn State in the playoffs than breakup happening. The point is, again, you never know the speed. Don't underestimate the 40. But the point is, not happen. This will get fought in court. Business model tweaks. No breakup.
What is your? I mean, you can't own all. I mean, you could own all these Mag 7 stocks next year, but for the average investor, it doesn't have that much capital to put to work. Like, what's the 1 or 2 names you think they should?
You own Nvidia?
Let's push aside Nvidia. Is there one name out of that Mag 7 that you think might surprise people, even in the context of expectations being high?
I think it's going to be Microsoft. I think it's what Nadella is doing. I mean, I think it's still underestimated what this shift to the cloud is going to do. And they own AI. I mean, when you look at Copilot, it's in their backyard.
Well, Amazon is really getting in deep with Anthropic. I mean, that seems like a 2-horse race.
Look, but also Jassy understands AWS better than anyone in the world. The point is, like, they're not out of it. It just speaks to, like, but now you're starting to give more and more AI credit to Amazon, to Google, and it speaks to our view where tech's going into next year as AI revolution spreads, and the bears, right, in the spread, they're sitting there in their caves looking for AI in the spreadsheet. Can't find it.
Dan Ives, good to see you all year. Happy holidays to you. Appreciate all
too.
You've touched 97,000 Yahoo Finance tickers here, I think. I mean, the stories that are about to come out off of this podcast are mind-blowing. You're going to see yourself plastered all over the internet very, very soon. Dan Ives, good to see you as always on
Thanks
Yahoo
for having
Finance.
me.
First time
Happy
on Opening
holidays.
Bid. Good to see you. And that's it for the latest episode of Opening Bid.